We are in the Heritage Agent Drive on Google right now, and I always show people when I'm getting into any of our training where to find our training folder, which is in there. It says training, pretty self-explanatory. And within our training folder, we actually have all our programs in here, and this happens to be business building, but we have business building as a separate seminar, and then we have our business building with our Quick Start program, and we're following the Quick Start program, the 6 sessions that we have in Quick Start. We did session 1 last week, which was the introduction to our core systems. And today we're doing developing a business plan and business planning in general. So I'm going to just open up developing a business plan. We're going to go through some stuff here. In session 2, when we bring on a new agent or even an existing agent that's been in the business before, we want to make sure that all the communication's happening. So we do a bit of a review in session 2 from session 1, which making sure that you can get access to your Century 21 email, making sure you can go into the drive and get access to all our information, and make sure that communication is happening. The training sites that we have, train21.ca, and our YouTube site for any resources to watch the videos and train as you go with our company, but also just in general, real estate in general. So, but the purpose of Quick Start is to get people up and going and showing everything sort of one at a time, the things that are sort of most important to start in your business. Now, if a lot of you on today's seminar, have been in the business for more than 6 months or a year, this session is probably even more relevant to you, because you're going to know a lot of these things that I'm going to talk about today, but a lot of them you have never put in place. You've never actually sat down and looked at a full business plan and said, okay, this is what I'm going to do next. And maybe you have, and maybe got step 1 and 2, but didn't get to 3 and 4. So I'm going to go through that with you, and I think you'll get a lot out of it. So we'll do the review. We'll talk about the business planning, time blocking and accountability, and tax planning. These should all be a part of a business plan. So first, from last week, making sure that everybody on this call, what are we up to now? Up to 42. So all 42 of you hopefully have subscribed to our YouTube channel. Over the weekend, Joseph was putting about 4 or 5 new videos. So you should have gotten emails too, because when you subscribe, you can also hit a little bell that will send you notifications every time something's been added. So make sure that you have that as well. How many homes are you guys seeing every week? And now, without COVID, you'd be out seeing these homes through open houses or buyer visits, but you can still see homes virtually. So if you haven't gone on to your MLS system and searched for homes and kept up to date with what's happening, what's selling, what are the prices, what's happening with prices in your area, that's what you should be doing every single day. So you should be looking at homes every single day, because when you do get into a situation, we'd be talking about the marketplace, you need to be able to speak to that. Did you add a minimum of 10 contacts into your CRM? 10 contacts. So whatever you're using currently, whether it be Google Contacts or MailChimp, is what we're suggesting at this point in time to just keep track of people's addresses, information. Make sure you're consistently adding at least 10 contacts every single week. If you can get up to 100 contacts in your book of business, that's probably good for about 150,000 to 200,000 of business a year minimum. So you really shoot to 100. I think everybody really should be shooting that way. Now, if you're first, I just need to get 50, that's fine too. But you should always have that end goal of having at least 100 people that you're managing at any given time. Even when you're at 100 and it's, you're 5 years into the business and you're saying, well, I've got 200 and 300 now, that might be too much. So 100 is a good number to really look at. And the reason why is because you want to make sure that you're able to hit your touches every single day, week, and month. Make sure that you're contacting them. Make sure you have the top. You're always trying to make A+ clients out of your contacts. So managing that 100 might be a bit easier. So get 10 a day. Addresses for sure. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Have you completed the mandatory FinTrack video seminar and filled out the form? That's another thing that you need to do when you start with us as well. So as Zig Ziglar said, it was character that got us out of bed, commitment that made us, or that moved us into action, and discipline that enables us to follow through. And that is a business plan, and the purpose of it is to follow through on it. And that's the hardest thing to do. It's easier to sit here and talk about it, another to actually follow through and do it. So where does your business come from? We look at, I've put this together to look at 3 areas of where business comes from when putting together a business plan. And first is, I would say it is the most important, and it is a priority in everybody's business plan, is your business is going to come from the people that know you or if you've done business with in the past. It's the cheapest form of advertising. It's, the least amount of effort you're going to need to put towards thing to get a result is the people that like you and know you are going to use you. So the second is paid advertising. And I've talked to a couple agents very recently that flat out said, "Oh no, yeah, this is what I do. I pay for my advertising." I talked to a team out in Oakville. They happen to be one of the top teams in the world for Century 21, and he paid for his business. He flat out said, "Aaron, I need help with my sphere of influence. We're known in the area because we spend a lot of money." I mean, bottom line. And then the third one is prospecting. If you don't have the money, which a lot of us don't when we're initially started, and even we're in the business, money is always an issue. So prospecting is going to be the best way to spend time. It's more about time that you spend, which is money really in the end. So you have to be careful with prospecting, is not to, spend too much time where you could be, for example, paying to advertise. And we'll talk about that as well. So there's prospecting is the third way. The following business plan will divide into 3 sections, and those are the 3. Focused on one area at a time, and sphere of influence should be the first, as it is where 85% of realtors' business comes from, and it lays out the foundation of a solid business. That foundational solid business is so important because it's going to take away the peaks and valleys. Everybody's business tends to, shoot up in the spring, fall off in the summer, have another blip in the fall, and that's typical. But the ones that do it really, really well tend to be busy all the time, and they really don't look at peaks and valleys very often. Even when it's busy in the marketplace, they are consistently always doing business, and it's because they have a good foundation. So located in the drive where I showed you earlier, you're going to find this quick start session. Even if you type in the search bar in the drive, if you typed in business plan, you'll come up, if you can, print this off and use this as a good guideline. And we're going to go through this right now. And typically I would sit across from the person that is I'm doing the business plan with and asking a bunch of questions. So I'm going to explain this instead. But each of you are going to have a different scenario for this. And at the very top, you're going to put your name and your date. The yearly personal expenses and business expenses and income over the last 365 days and income goal for the next 365, just leave that blank for now. Really, I'm getting right into a business plan in terms of where business comes from. And you'll have a better idea when you fill this form out as to what your income goal is going to be, because we're going to be able to take some of your numbers and we're going to be able to figure out where you really should be gearing your numbers towards a budget of how much business you should be able to get out of, for example, and we'll start with the sphere of influence. So just leave that for now. And as for your personal expenses, this Pam does a great job. And if you get a chance on the YouTube channel, session 1 of both the Heritage Coaching Academy from 2018 and 2019, or was it 17 and 19? She's on there, and she does a great job of going through really finding out what you need to make in your personal life, or what you need to make in your business life to support your personal life. Everybody's personal life is different about, we all have different expenses in terms of cars and family and, your house and mortgage payments, everything. So it's good to know where you need to be in order to stay in this business. But we're going to skip ahead today and go right into your business plan, because as a quick start session, we want to get really going on what it is that you need to start with, hit the ground running. And this is never more important than it is today, because when things open up after the COVID crisis, people are going to be interacting more in terms of transactional stuff in terms of buying and selling. So sphere of influence. So how many people can you get addresses for? It's the first question I ask everyone. It's your number. Even walking through the hall, if I ask one of you, what's your number? You should know what this is. This is the number of people you have addresses for. If you don't have addresses, you really don't have a book of business. If you just have email addresses, you're only 30% effective, even if you're doing a really good job of it. If you only have phone numbers, then you're probably 40% effective. But if you have addresses, you know a lot about a person. First of all, it can tell, the relationship you have with them. So you know them a little better than just somebody that you just give a call out of the blue. But also you can do a lot of things I'm going to go through on here, and I'm going to go back to that. But there is a calculation, and it doesn't matter how you skin this. It doesn't matter whose coaching seminar that you go to. There's a lot of coaches that do these numbers differently. They all come down to about the same approximations for income potential. Okay. I'm going to go through a very simple way to do it. There's even a simpler way. I think it's taking your address list, which you need to start with, and times it by 14% is another way to do it. The way I do it here is I kind of get you to understand that 100 people, and out of that 100 people, they'll move every approximately, they say 5 to 7 years. So let's go with the high end. Let's say 7 years in the worst case. And we're going to divide your 100 by 7, which equals 14. Okay. Unfortunately, I can't add that in, but pretend 14's there. So you get 14 deals. And these are easy numbers to know. 14 deals at an average commission of, let's say, $10,000 a deal is your minimum potential income from those people. And that would be for $140,000. Okay, so if you have 100 people, divide by 7, you get 14. 14 times 10,000 is $140,000. So when I talked to you earlier about 100 people, I'd like you to have at least $140,000 of projected income coming from your sphere of influence. And if you don't, it means there are certain aspects of your sphere of influence that you could improve on. Okay, so as we talk about the different actions throughout today's business plan, you'll start circling ones that, I've got to get that set up. I've got to get that set up. And if you have 4 or 5 out of the list that I'm going to go over with you in place, and you're doing it consistently, that 140 will be blown out of the water, because not only will you get you'll get a percentage of those 14 potential deals, you will also get the referrals. Each person knows 2 people, right? So out of those 100, right, there's an additional 200 extra people that could be potentials for sales. So each person, those 2 people are going to buy and sell. The question is, are they going to think of you when they're thinking about those other 2 people and they've brought it up at a party or social media? I'm buying a house. Oh, you got to use Aaron. That's the sort of, mindset that you need to get into people's head. It's called mind share, and you have to get a person's mind share thinking of real estate as Aaron Richardson. And that would be me, of course, but it would be you if you kept in touch with them. So if your minimum potential income is 140,000, keep in mind also that there are buy and sells. So out of that 14 people, if you only got half of them to interact with you, that's 7. But the other half, you've got so you have 7, and then half of those will buy and sell. So you back add that another 3 or 4, right? Plus a couple of referrals, you're back up to 14. So that law of just divide by 7, it does work. The other way that I've heard is just times it by 14%, because if you're at 14% of your sphere of influence, that's a healthy number. If you're closer to 20, you're doing more business. If you're down there 10, you need to sharpen up. So these are how the numbers work. So let's go further down and look at, we do put this is for a person that also has done business in the past. So we have a section for what you made last year in each of these areas. So your friends and family, how much did you make from your friends and family? How much did you get as a past client? How much did you get as a referral? And then you can look towards next year. There are some people, the referrals are super high. and friends and family and past clients are low? Well, it's because they have a referral network, right? I know Syrian, this guy named Syrian out in Edmonton does an amazing job coming out to all our conferences and setting up a booth, that he does between 40 and 50 deals a year, every single year, in referral business from other Century 21 people across Canada. And he considers them part of his sphere of influence. He sends me a card every birthday, at holiday time, St. Patrick's Day. He sent me a card because he's Irish. And so these are things that he does in his business that is effective in the referral end of things. So what we're going to do is look at 14 deals projected this year. So in this column here, 14 deals, $440,000 as commission goals for this year. The system that we're going to talk about is going to be divided up in these different categories. So first of all, the newsletter. Now, it's a mailed newsletter, okay? We have a program at Century 21 that's been going on for 30 years. And most of our top agents, and if I'm not saying all our top agents, have a newsletter that's done for them. And most of them use our system, and they have been for many years. It was something that was put in place because we knew the importance, or Pam, the owner, knew the importance of sending a piece of mail out to everybody at least once a month. Again, get that mind share. And it's that remembering that you're in the business. And remember, just thinking of, when you think of soft drink, you think of Coke. When you think of running shoes, you think of Nike. When you think of real estate, you think of Aaron Richardson. That's what I'm trying to create, mind share. And if you're not reminding them every month with something, at least newsletter wise, then you're just not they're not going to think of you. The newsletter makes a big difference because it's in paper. They touch it, they feel it. It's sent to them by mail. So make sure that newsletters is the number one thing highlighted. You have to get on a newsletter program. Our newsletter program's $1.35 per month per person. It is the cheapest form of advertising I did, and the most effective form of advertising I did for the 10 years that I was selling. We're the top team in the company. Every team member on my team had a newsletter sent out, and has had the newsletter sent out for 10 or more years. And if you don't think that in 5 years from now, when somebody finally sells, that they haven't seen that newsletter 40 times and thrown it in the garbage, thrown it in garbage, thrown it in garbage, and they didn't think to call you, you're crazy. They're going to think to call you if they're looking to buy and sell, because you've reminded them. So that's the number one. So if you have 100 people that you need to get addresses for, you're going to put 100 here, and it's going to cost you about $1,400 a year. Plus tax or whatever, but it's a write-off. So it's half of that, right? You're going to be doing $150,000 every year. Well, this $1,500, which is 1,000 times percentage of return on investment, is going to be your best return on investment. And it's going to be like, anybody who says it's expensive only if you don't do it, because it's costing you business. Okay. So the newsletters have to be done. Pop buys. Pop buys are a system that Brian Buffini's famous for. Brian Buffini is a coach and trainer, and if you have not seen any of his stuff, you may want to check him out as a potential for seminars down the road. And we host those seminars ever so often. So what he's got a few of these. He does pop buys, note cards, and some of the other ones a little bit more. But pop buys and note cards are the ones that he's known for. Number one trainer in the business. What a pop buy is you're popping by somebody's house. And remember, newsletters and pop buys you can't have without an address list. So that's why you need addresses. But the pop buy is great because you're going to stop by somebody's house with a nice little saying, for example, a scoop, ice cream scoop. You're going to hand that to them along with a little card that says, if you're ever looking for the scoop in real estate, give me a call. And it's a cute little thing, and it's a play on words. And some people say, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cheesy. They like it. I mean, in the end, whether it's funny, cheesy or not, they think it's creative. And when they think of real estate, oh yeah, or when they think of ice cream, they'll think of you. But it's just a good little giveaway that you're going to pop by, give them, and then move on to the next one, right? Spend a weekend doing it. My pop buys every year were pumpkins, and I did chocolate bunnies at Easter. So, and it worked great. I mean, every time I ever did it, I was like, man, I should do this a lot more often. Because if you talk to 50 people in the course of 2 days and doing your pop buys, you're getting referrals for the next 2 weeks. you could probably attribute 2 or 3 sales just from the a few hours that you spent on the weekend stopping by people's houses. So if you don't have open houses to do and you're not doing pop buys, that'd be a mistake. Calls. Obviously, calls are important. Touching base with people, show that you care. And how you make those calls, we can chat about further down the line about different scripts and everything. But it has to be part of your business plan. Regardless of the script, regardless of how well you do, what you say, you gotta do it. You have to make those calls. So make sure that on here, again, you're putting how many calls. Now, the rule is about 4 times a year, once a quarter, right? Once a quarter, you want to make a call. So 100 people, 4 times a year is 400. So put that there, 400, and it doesn't cost you anything. That's your time. It costs you time, which is fine. I mean, if you have the time, and regardless, it's not even if you have the time, you're going to time block this time. You have to make these calls. Even the people that are selling, let's say, 1,000 homes a year, and they have all the team members and all the rest of it, they're still making the calls. They still have to make those calls. So have this part of your business plan. It's in the top producers manual. Make sure that it's there. The next one is note cards. And remember I said 4 or 5 things that if you were to do, well, we're on 4. And if you were to do the top 4, I think that you would probably be ahead of the 140,000 projection. I think you'd be up to 200,000 if you were doing consistently over year. Okay, it's not about doing it for 3 months and expecting 5 deals. It's about doing it every single week, month, years. These are the things for the best foundational stuff in business. So the note cards, you're going to go out to the dollar store, and you're going to buy 100 note cards to get you started. Okay. And they're going to have a little picture on the front. It could be spring, so it could be flowers. It could be anything. No, it doesn't matter, right? And don't worry about what it is. The point of the whole thing is that you're going to handwrite a nice little, it was really nice chatting with you. We really shouldn't let time, pass us by as often without seeing each other. Stay in touch, Aaron. And you're going to put it in an envelope. You're going to put a stamp on it, the old school stamp, $1. Yes, it's going to cost you $1, and you're going to send it out to them, and they're going to open it, and they're going to forget the last time somebody actually hand wrote a note to them, and you're going to be the first person they think of course, going forward. With the personalization of handwriting a card, of how personal now the relationship is so much stronger. Use Facebook. You talk about using technology in certain ways. Well, use Facebook to come up with the reasons to write a note card. And you're going to write 2 a day. That's all, right? First thing in the morning, get to your computer, 9 o'clock, 2 note cards. Takes you 10 minutes, not even. It take you 5 minutes just to go on Facebook, see that Billy, we'll say Jim's kid Billy, just won a hockey tournament on the weekend. And you're going to take it out and you say, Billy, your dad told me you won the championship. Congratulations. Way to go. Put it in the card, send it off. And all of a sudden Billy's going, who is this guy? Oh yeah, it's Aaron. Oh yeah, you don't remember Aaron? It's, and they have that conversation. And of course, Billy's going to remember you. And of course, if they're going to sell, Billy's going to say, are you going to use Aaron? He sent me that card, right? So it's great. It really is a good opportunity for you to get that personal interaction. And so that top 4, if you go to those top 4 things, just get those 4 things done over the next, I don't even care if it takes you 6 months to get all 4 of those going consistently, you will kill it in this industry. If there is no secret in this industry, okay, everybody who's sending you the coaching and all these seminars you have to attend and all the rest of it, it's relationships. That's all it is. And if those 4 things are done consistently with 100 people that you are doing business. You are doing very well in your business, I promise you, but you have to do it. I do remember, I use Eddie Donan a lot as an example because, and if Eddie on the call, you just say hi. But I sat down with Eddie and he was coming from a competitor. I didn't know him. And I said, hey, so Eddie, you want to, come to Century 21 in Richmond? He goes, yeah, great location. Want to know a little bit about your office and stuff. I said, well, let me ask you a few things about you. First of all, so how's your business? He goes, good. I was working for Century 21 before. I've been in Centurion. I'm going, oh, Centurion, that's great. he's making 250 plus, whatever it was at the time. And I said, that's really good. Let me ask you a couple other questions. Do you send out a newsletter? Oh yeah, I've got a newsletter. Do it. I said, how many people? Oh, I send out about 100, newsletters, whatever it was at the time. I can't remember exactly what he said. And I said, well, what else do you do? Are you doing, so I do some farming, and we'll get to farming. Do you, pop buys, note cards, whatever we discussed, I was impressed with the fact he actually did it. And I was able to chat with him about some other things that we were able to help. We talked about online stuff and lead gen, but he already had a good foundational business. He was probably the first person I really sat down and they actually were doing the things that people were telling you to do. And I was impressed. So it's not just people coming in and saying, oh, I don't do these things. There are people doing it, but guess what? He was getting the results. And he was really only doing a few of the things on here really, really well. So I always use them as an example, as if you want to be like Eddie, do these things and you'll get it done. The next things are just the standard calendars once a year, events that you can host, certain events such as, I was talking to another girl in the office in Richmond Hill when I was managing that office, and she was telling me she does garden parties. And she'd have a network of friends that come over, and she'd send out invitations and she'd food. And it was one of the events she did every year, and she's very successful. And even today she's doing well. Birthday cards. I've always wanted to get a good birthday card system down. I did all the other things before this, every single one of them. Birthday cards were one I never nailed down. So if you can do it, you're ahead of me. And I never got the birthday card thing nailed down, but I would have liked to. I did do 1-year anniversary cards and different things. I just never got the birthday cards done. Email touches. Email's the last thing on the list here, and it's probably the very first thing that you look for in your business to start with. I find a lot of agents say, oh yeah, I send a newsletter. I said, what kind of newsletter do you say? Oh, it's the one that's, with the Buffini system or the email or whatever it is. It's done by email. So no, that's not a newsletter. That's spam. What you're doing is you're spamming people and they don't like it. And yeah, you're trying to create mind share, but it's not a positive experience in mind share right now. People aren't getting it going, oh, what a wonderful newsletter. I'm so glad they sent me that pumpkin pie recipe. And some of them do. I mean, let's be honest, some of them like it. But for the most part, people do not. They put it in their junk mail. They say unsubscribe. They just don't like it. So email touches, if you're going to do the emails, okay, we're going to be setting up a system within the next 4 weeks. Keep an eye out for it. It is a system that's going to automate the emails into different type of value ads. So for example, we give discounts like things like the brick and paint and moving companies and all this sort of stuff. So we get a bunch of discounts. So we made it up into once, maybe every month and a half, 7 times a year. You send out these value ads on top of, happy Valentine's Day and Thanksgiving and Halloween and things like that. So those are sort of little value ads that I think are more important than just a newsletter. So I typically don't do the newsletter. I do it by mail. If you do an email newsletter, I'm not saying that it's going to affect your business in a negative way. It still will be a touch. I'm just saying it shouldn't be your number one program because it's the least effective, and that's why it's on the last of the list. So our programs include that Sphere of Influence newsletter. Joseph manages it. He does a great job of getting a newsletter to Homania, who put it together, put it in an envelope, put a stamp on it, send it out to all your clients. So that is $1.35 per person per month. It's a great value. There's the Client Connect program. Now the CRM, that's what I'm just talking about. In 3 to 4 weeks, we are going to be implementing that additional automated CRM that we've had for many, many years in the past. We just had a few months there. We're in between systems that for CRM. So, but we'll get that going. Again, not the most important thing. So calendars, there's great calendar companies. Joseph, again, does that once a year. The pop buys and the action plans we send out all the time as well. So we have great ideas for that. Just so you know, from a business plan summary, I usually send people away with this one piece of paper, get those 4 things done, and then book another session with me. right? Or with your manager in this case, you know, your managers will do this with you at any point in time or review it with you. The paid advertising we don't get into until this is done. Because if you don't have a foundation, you're not building anything on top of it. It's falling apart if you don't have a CRM set up, newsletters set up, pop-bys going, you're going out doing them, calls being made. If you're not doing that stuff, you can pay all you want. You can pay all the money in the world. You'll get calls, but you'll be very ineffective. You'll be running around a lot, and you won't be managing your business. Your business will be taking control of you. So make sure to set up the systems first. We'll talk about paid advertising because, again, some people are in that situation. This is where I went to with Eddie. When we sat down and went through the sphere of influence, tightened up on a few things, we went to paid advertising and said, hey, you're ready to go. You know, what should you start doing? Well, there's lots of different options, and they're at the bottom here. You've got newspapers, publications such as Real Estate News, Homes and Lands. We don't get into bench advertising or bus advertising unless you're at a certain gross closed commission and you're already farming an area. Excuse me, television, Rogers. I was on Rogers for a while because I volunteered. Well, as I volunteered, I happened to bump into the guy that was doing a Rogers show on real estate. So he said, come on, we'll talk about real estate. So we did that. Google pay-per-click, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. These are all pay-per-click services. Nowadays, if you're online and you're developing any content whatsoever, it doesn't matter if it's video or great ad landing pages, unless you're paying, it's an uphill battle. Facebook, Google, everybody's doing everything they can against you because they want you to pay. So if you've put a great post on Facebook, you ever wonder why you only got 22 likes? Well, it's because they're not showing it to all your friends. It's not the friends who didn't like it. It's just that, you know, unless it was really viral, they're not going to suggest it or put it in front of anybody else's eyes if not enough people are liking it. So there are programs there. I could be definitely, you know, proven wrong that people can get out there and do really spend a lot of time with Google trying to organically create business online, but you're spending time, and time is money, right? If you've got a budget now of 150,000 just in sphere of influence, and you're getting that to that next level of 300,000, 400,000, you can't spend time worrying about articles on Google. You shouldn't be writing stuff. Whatever you're doing right now, if you're blogging, good for you, but it's because it's a hobby and you're good at it and you can do it quickly. It's not because it's going to get you business, because right now it's probably the least effective time spent that you're going to have, because the cost associated with writing articles and the return on your investment is very little. If you do pay-per-click, you can target areas, demographics, get mind share, have a good statistical analysis. If I spend $100 in this area, how much will I get back? And now we're in pay-per-click. It's more like, if I spend 20,000 in this area, what will I get back? And 20,000 should get you back 100,000. You should be able to get at least 10 deals from a $20,000 ad campaign on Google or Facebook, right? But that's all analytical, right? You can't do that with your time and SEO. So this is why you do need to pay to play on the online platforms. The rest of the stuff, farm flyers. Now, farming would be one of the first things I would go to in paid advertising if somebody was to want to get going with a system for mind share and ramping up your business that's scalable. But we would get into more of a one-on-one discussion about that. So again, with your manager and with myself, you can always have a discussion about paid advertising as the right direction to go. But I would be fair to say that if there was 50 people on this call, 48 of you still need to do this. So don't think about this until this is ready, okay? And the last thing is, of course, and this is good, prospecting. If you don't have 100 people on this sphere of influence list, prospecting is where you're going to find more people, okay? Prospecting, and we'll talk about the different sections of prospecting, and we'll start off, door knocking and cold calling, of course, what everybody thinks about when you think of prospecting. If you want a listing tomorrow and you don't have a sphere of influence enough to make a go of it, then you might just get out there and start knocking on some doors. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with it, right? If you do it consistently, it works. There's no doubt. It's a numbers game, but your time is money, and you're spending your time doing this. And then that's fine too. But you'll get good at it. You'll find what works, what doesn't work, and door knocking and cold calling can be part of your. In fact, I have a door knocking worksheet, and I'll tell you how many doors you'll have to knock on in order to, have let's say a $100,000 budget, right? I'll tell you exactly how many doors you're going to, because it's a numbers game. But the other things I want you to pay attention to here is open houses and network groups, trade shows. There's a few others I'm going to add here, but open houses, probably number one for me, probably number one for 80% of the agents out there in terms of, where they're getting a supplemental income from on top of their sphere of influence. Open houses you're attracting specific buyers into a home that probably are going to look to buy and sell over the next either 6 months or a year or at some point in time. They're interested in houses, even if it's a nosy neighbor, it's okay. You're creating relationships. So open house is a very good way to target and hone in on a target clientele. So you're not just going door knocking and just talking to a general public. You are actually talking to people that want to talk to you and talk to you about houses. So open houses are great. If you can do as many open houses as possible, it should be part of your business plan. So here where you've put in, now if you've done them in the past and you made some money from them, great. But here's your weekly goal. 2, 1, what do you want to do, right? 44 weeks, work a year. If you do 40 open houses this year, will you get a return on your investment? If you don't, I got to tell you, there's something you're doing wrong, because I know if somebody's consistently doing open houses and they're a pleasant person to talk to, you'll be making money from open houses. There's no doubt. And there is a great video that you can take or do on our YouTube channel, Century 21 Heritage Group Training. Look for open house video with Pam. And there's a few of them on there because we've taped them a couple times. She does a fantastic job. Good tips and tricks of how to host an open house. It's all about preparation. It's all about making sure that you're engaging with the people and giving them some information, and they're going to test you. You need to have the answers. You need to know what the house next door sold for. You got to know that 2 doors down that there was a listing on the market and it was a grow house or whatever it is, right? And I always say the number one tip I like to give in open houses, I like to throw it out there as much as I can, is to always book a showing right after the open house to invite people to. It's your first showing. You're saying, I'm going to check out the house just came up on the market 2 doors down. Now, if they love the house you're in and you're selling it for obviously the seller, if they love it, sell them it. But a lot of times that's not the right house for them. But you can get them into a house, that's, maybe 3 streets over that's very similar, and just say, come check this one out if you want at 4:30. I'm there at 4:30. So I always like doing that. Make that part of your business plan by writing that down and the commission goal on there. The trade shows, network groups, I like to put Snapped on here, SNAPD, Snapped Magazine. It has a calendar. Snapped Magazine has a calendar. If you go into the calendar of events in every area. So Newmarket, for example, Aurora, Snapped Richmond Hill, Snapped Hamilton. They're all great opportunities to see on a calendar what's happening in town. Look for the week ahead and see that there is a opening of a new restaurant on Friday at 4:00, and you're going to show up with your video camera, maybe a microphone, and you're going to do a video blog of the opening for the restaurant. They're going to see that, and you're going to introduce yourself as a realtor in the area that likes to give the information and do this video blog, or maybe you just do a blog. It's up to you. But what you're doing is you're creating a conversation between you and the owners, and maybe some of the people standing around, waiting for the ribbon cutting or whatever it is, and you're networking. This is the best way to network. You do not have to join a network group to network. You don't have to be part of a club or organization, a church, curling, there's hockey, baseball, there's tons of clubs. You don't have to be part of one just to go out and attend different events in town events, and then promote it on your social media. So think about how many ways you're hitting this at. You're meeting new people. You're getting people who appreciate you for posting about them and their business. You're letting your sphere of influence know on Facebook that you are connected with the community, that you are out there doing things in a positive way, giving information, and that you know what's going on in the real estate industry. You're also meeting new people online that also are friends of the people that you're promoting. and they're going to like your photos. And if you see this enough, and this is happening enough, you become a bit of a celebrity in town. So these are the things that you're going to do to get out there and prospect, meet new people, network. There is a prospecting door knock worksheet on here that I want you to have a look at if you're interested in finding out. And I put it on here because I think it's a good way of saying, listen, I'm going to make 150,000 from my sphere of influence. We kind of figured that out, but I really want to be up at 200 or 250. How can I do 250 with prospecting and just door knocking? I'm going to door knock. That's what I'm going to do. Well, if you put $100,000 in the income goal from prospecting, you take out your calculator, and I'm sure I could probably do this in my head, but I don't want to, just in case I make a mistake. So 100,000, and you're going to times that by, or divide it by, divide by the average commission. So 10,000 we said earlier, so I'm going to do 10,000. So obviously 10. So 10 deals is what you need to make from door knocking next week to make, or next year to make $100,000. So if you divide that by 33%, you're going to get 30. That's how many presentations you need to go on, right? You're going to sharpen up your listing presentations because you're going to knock on all these doors, and eventually, yes, you're going to get some success. So you need 30 listing presentations because on average, 33% is the listing presentation success rate. Divide that by 10%, and you get 303. And that's how many contacts. So that's kind of like a lead. You go to the front door, they say, hi, yeah, no, I'd love a home evaluation. Why don't you give me a, I'll come back on Friday, or how's Saturday's better. So you go back on Saturday and you do your home evaluation, handed it over. They're not listing their house yet. That's not a listing presentation. That is a contact. You're going to stay in contact with them. You need 300 of them in order to make 100,000 out of this. Now, keep in mind that 100,000 is going to grow exponentially every year because they're going to be part of your sphere of influence because you've built a good foundation, right? So, but we'll get through this. 300 contacts you need to make. Divide by the amount of weeks that you want to work per year, divided by 44 weeks per year. And that's about 7. Okay. So that's 7 contacts a week. That's all, right? If you do it consistently, that's the leads you need. You need 7. Some people will go door knocking and they won't have the door knocking amount. Like they're going to say, I'm going to do it 100 homes today. They're going to say, no, I'm going to do it until I get 7. I'm going to 7 leads, then I can go home. And that's okay too. But if you want to turn that into how many doors knock per week as see how you're doing, divide that by 2%. And you'll get 344 doors per week. You want to go door knocking for 344 doors, I'm going to say you're going to need to do that at least 4 times a week, divided by 4, and you're at 86 homes per day, 4 times a week. Okay, and that's your goal, is 100,000. So part of a business plan is to say, what actions do I have to create what results? So we took a result of $100,000 and said, these are how many actions you have to do to get that result from door knocking. So do that. Do 86 per day, 4 days a week, 44 weeks a year. And that's a lot of time for 100,000. But some of you would be like, 100,000, hey, I'll make $100,000 next year. It would be great. That's a great income to make in real estate. So you'd be happy with that. I remember it was Chris Leader, another coach in the industry, once said, he says, you know what? How many of you, if I told you that you could work 40 hours a week, just make phone calls, that's all you had to do, and you make $400,000 next year, would you do it? And everybody's like, yeah, of course I'd do it. He says, well, you could. I could set you up in front of a phone and make all the calls, you get all the leads, make it 400,000. You got to do my scripts. You got to do it the way I want it done, et cetera, et cetera. I said, people don't want to make the calls. People just don't want to do those sort of things. But if you're the type of person that doesn't mind door knocking, cold calling, it can work. But you do have to be consistent with it, and you'll hone your skills as you go. So those are the 3 sheets in a good business plan that I go through. At the bottom, at the bottom of each of the sheet, I want you to go back. And now that you have an idea of going through a business plan, what you want to focus on, take those 4 things that you want to focus on, put underneath here what it is. I want to do the newsletters, pop-bys, calls, and note cards. Write them here. Put a goal date of when you're going to get it set up. And everybody should have a goal date within 2 weeks here, because we have all the time in the world, a lot of us right now, in order to get these things done. So, maybe make the newsletters. I'm going to call Joseph. I'm going to get them ordered. I'm going to get this sort of thing ready, go start making my calls to get the addresses. So I get 100. And that goal date is going to be maybe June 1st. Okay. And then the next one's pop buys. Well, I'm going to go out now. Right now it's difficult. So you can't do pop buys. So you put a goal date of September in there. Calls. Yes, you can do calls. So get the goal date. By next week, I'm going to start making 10 calls a day. And on that call, I'm going to say, hey, it's Aaron Richardson. How you been? Oh, I've been great. Listen, I'm just updating my contact list. I just want to make sure I got your information here correctly. Whereabouts are you living these days? If it's been somebody I haven't talked to in a while. Oh, I'm in Newmarket, et cetera. Can I get your address? I'd love to start sending you a newsletter I'm doing. And a birthday card. If I get you your birthday, these are things I want to be part of me going forward. And I really want to reach out and, stay in touch. I know we haven't talked in a while and I apologize for that, but I'm really going to make an effort to stay more in contact. That's my COVID-19, what do they call it? New Year's resolution. My COVID-19 resolution is to stay more in contact with people. So these are the conversations you're going to have with people, as that is your goal, and that's what you're going to put into place. So how are you also going to be able to come through and actually follow through on these goals? And we're going to get into accountability. As much as this is great, and I'll go through this with anybody at any time, a nice business plan, the accountability is the key. I think we all can agree with that. Yeah, I know I need to do it, but I just can't seem to get that into my habits. So it's all about habits. First thing you should do is you should look at a week and a month, and you time block out every single day of the week and every single day within a month, and decide on the monthly actions that you need to do. If it could be birthday program once a month, I'm going to do birthdays on a second Tuesday of every month. Or on the week, every week, let's say, and I'm going to show you the sheet that's attached here. This is what a week at a glance. Turn it the other way around, obviously. And you look at a Monday morning, and on Monday, it just should be horizontal. So picture it horizontal. On a Monday morning, you say 9 to 5, this is what you're going to do. Let's say Wednesdays, you're going to have training. Mondays, you're going to have your calls. You're going to make your calls maybe every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Tuesday's your open house day. Thursday's your training day, whatever it is. But you're going to, through your morning, your afternoon, and your evening, you're going to put in what you're going to do consistently every single day. And that should be part of what we talked about before. So when are you going to be doing your calls? When are you going to be doing your newsletter that you're just really, that's automated, so you don't have to worry about that. But you should update your list every month. So put that on your month at a glance. First Tuesday of every month in week 1, you're going to put it on here as a review of your sphere of influence for the newsletter program. So you go in and add new people or take away people. So, or change their address if they moved, or et cetera. So this is time blocking. And what you're going to do is you're going to time block it on here first, and then you're going to transfer it to your phone. If it's in your phone, it'll remind you. You can put reminders. You can even be reoccurring events on your phone. So you schedule it in and say, yes, it's reoccurring every Monday at this time. I'm always going to be doing this item, and it'll remind you. So that'll help you with accountability as well. Start every day at the same time. The earlier, the better. 8 o'clock in the morning, if you can get to your desk, great. Use the first hour to 2 hours just to complete paperwork. Mornings are always better to be organized and complete the paperwork. Start making the calls around 10. You're making your calls between 10 and 11. If you got listings, you're doing showing confirmation, or you're doing feedback on showings. You're calling clients, giving them feedback on how the open houses went on the weekend. So it'll be part of your Monday review on your week at a glance. But start and do all your administrative stuff first thing in the morning, get it out of the way. Book around time blocked appointments. Do not, just because you have somebody calls you and says, listen, can you do, come on over and do a listing presentation for me tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock. And you say, 4 o'clock, let me just check my schedule. And of course you check your schedule, and you've got prospecting at 4 o'clock. You're doing something at 4 o'clock, part of your business plan. I would suggest, and this is probably the best thing to do, is to let them know that you do have another appointment at that time. Is there any way that we could do it later on in the evening, or would, you don't want to postpone it. So maybe even do it earlier to see if another time would work for them. If another time doesn't work for them, say, I tell you what, can I call you back in 5 minutes? Call them back in 5 minutes and say, listen, I just moved around my schedule and made it work. 4 o'clock will be fine. You're still going to do it at 4, but what they've done is respect the fact you're a busy person and they want to deal with busy people, trust me. And they start respecting your time as important, and you were willing to move something for them. So it makes them feel special. There's a lot of things it does. So the other thing is you're going to take that time that you're supposed to be prospecting and you're going to move it as well. So you're not going to forget about it. You're going to move it. Okay. Have someone hold you accountable. That's another great tip, right? Family members, perfect. Son, daughter, husband, wife, uncle, somebody in the office. These are people that can hold you accountable. The best one I heard was the kids, right? You get a 10-year-old at the house and you sit them down and say, listen, you know, daddy sells real estate, right? He goes, oh yeah, no, I know. He says, how would you like to help daddy to sell real estate? Oh, that'd be great. Okay. What I want you to do is every day I get home, I want you to ask me these questions, right? And you have those questions. You have them up on a bulletin board or something. Daddy, how many clients did you talk to today? Daddy, did you go and talk to any new clients? Daddy, did you sell a house today? And these are things I want you to involve the family with. This is great accountability. Trust me, when you're looking at your 10-year-old and they're saying to you, hey, daddy, did you talk to a client today? And you let them down, that's the best accountability anybody can ask for. So review your business plan a few times a year. Don't just put this away, right? What we do is as soon as we do a business plan with any one of our agents, take a photocopy, put it into your file, and then that'll be on file for us. And if you want to come in, whether it be every 6 months or every year, just to review that business plan, that's how we organize it. And the last thing I want to talk just before we finish up, we got about 5 minutes, which is great. We're right on time, is tax planning. This is a big one because it's amazing to find out how much people in this industry, some people make a lot of money, but they also are living paycheck to paycheck. Other people make a decent amount of money and they don't live paycheck to paycheck. I know people that are making $100,000 a year. They're completely fine. They're healthy. They live a great life. And then there are people that are making 500,000 that are like, yeah, if I don't make a deal next month, taxes ain't gonna get paid, right? So I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? You've got to plan your taxes properly. Make sure that your whatever plan it is, that you're holding back your taxes for the next coming season, a percentage. We'll do it for you. If you want us to do it for you, ask one of your managers. We'll get you Daniela's email. Daniela is our accounting person that looks after all that. She'll put it into a separate account for you and give you, an update at any point in time, or cut the check for you at any point in time. I always did it. I started with 10% plus HST because I got the company to hold my HST. Then I said, well, I want to put 10% towards taxes, and it wasn't enough. It should be more like 20. And then when you do your taxes, if you get a bonus at the back because you over saved, then it's like you can go out and spend that money on a vacation or something like that. But save it. I would suggest, depending on where you sit in taxes, calculating that. In the end, the best I've ever heard in terms of getting this done properly is 50% of your gross income, putting it aside into a bank account that's for your business. Now you're running it like a business. Every business will have their own general account. You should have one too. 50% goes into the general account. 50% goes into your personal account because you pay yourself a wage. And then that business account is where you're going to take off all your line items, your expenses. It's going to pay for your taxes, whether it be your HST holdings, and then an advertising budget. So if you say, I'm going to spend 15% on advertising, it's paid for every year. Every year it's ahead. And this is what top producers do, because the next year when they're advertising, they're 15% doubled their business. They now have double the amount of advertising. So they double the advertising again, and then they double the business again. So it's scalable. And this is how really good business people really have a successful career. And this is why top producers are where they are, because they know what they can spend where to make them the most amount of money, including their time. So there's actually the email address. I actually put it in there, heritage.accounting@century21.ca at any time if you want to take advantage of putting some of it's the best thing I ever did. As soon as we did that, we were, it was our team, we did it as a team. We put that into an advertising fund. I mean, it was the best thing we did. So, so the homework for this week in session 2 is to keep reviewing homes, make sure that you know your marketplace, add a minimum of 10 more contacts, so making your phone calls, getting addresses, schedule number 3, which we're going to do today, and then hand in your business plan. So in this case, if you've done that today, what I want you to do is fill it in. If you can print it out, if not, actually you can go into the Drive. There is a fillable form in there that you can fill out for business plan. If you have a problem with that, let me know. But yes, you can fill that in and then just send it over, and we'll put it in your file. And that way, a year from now, and I love doing that, right? You look at a business plan a year back. I remember one year it was dead on, 100,000 is what we planned for. And then a year later, we sat down again, and they were at like 103,000. It was amazing. It really gives me a sense of accomplishment, because this is how I get my excitement in my business to help others to get to that next level. And when it happens, it's really great for both of us. So hand in business and fill in and complete your time blocking. So make sure you get that done as well. And this one, I really like this quote. This is one that I've lived by for many years. I was working for a company over 20 years ago, and the owner of that company sent me a plaque with this on it. And that plaque said, "Successful people are often successful because they are willing to do the Successful people are often successful because they are willing to do things unsuccessful people are not willing to do." And John C. Maxwell said that. And that's the truth. The fact is that if we look at our agents in this industry, 50,000 in, let's say, the GTA, I would say out of that 50,000, if there was 1,000 that had a good business plan and actually follow through, I think 20,000 of the 50 don't even do a deal a year, I think is the number. So you're not alone if you haven't done a deal. But if you start doing these things on this business plan, that's when you're going to start doing deals. And it'll just be so surprised. It'll take you a while to get that first one cracked. But after that, it's just like it starts to roll and then get up to a really good speed because you have a good business plan. You have a successful foundation. Where can we find the business plan sheet? I'm going to show you right now in the Drive. So first of all, you need to sign into your Century 21 email address in Google. Okay, if you can't do that, you're missing out. So get there first. Then you're going to go to the Drive. So the second step is go to your Drive. And in your Drive, you should have a folder that we've shared with you. And if you don't, any one of our front desks management can send you that folder. We'll email it to you. And then you're going to share it and you're going to save it in your Drive. Now, when you're in our folder, all you have to type in is business plan. But the problem with typing in business plan sometimes is there's so many of them. We've got quick start session 2 business plan. We've got a D business plan. We got business plans. I think even there's Century 21 stuff. So what I like to do is I'm going to show you, if you go into our training folder, okay, it is considered one of our in-house workshops. So it is located in the in-house workshop and it's under business planning. D, business planning. Okay, this is where you're going to find it. And this is probably what I should have done with you guys today, but I just think it flowed nicely with the Quick Start program. But if I clicked on business plan, this is where you're going to get it, and it's fillable. Okay, so if you download it, just hit download. This can be filled. It won't be fillable with the preview that I just went in, but if you download up the right-hand side to your computer, this should be fillable form, so you can do that.